Welcome to another of our Fruitful Field consultation podcasts. The consultation began on the 17th of October, finishes on the 23rd of December, just in time for Christmas, and you can make your voice heard by going to methodist.org.uk/Fruitful Field, where you can also find the consultation document, and that's what we're discussing in these podcasts. These podcasts, I've said it before, I'll say it again, will make more sense if you've had a look at that first. So we hope that you'll do that before you view these. And now I'm joined again by Reverend Helen Cameron, who is a consultant to the Ministries Committee. You're not a member of the Ministries Committee, but you're a consultant to the Ministries Committee, and you have a background in theological education, and you're also convener of the Connectional Tutors Group. Is that correct?
I am indeed, yes.
Brilliant. Now, one thing we've been talking about is why do this at all? And a lot of the answers that we've been given is because the money is not going to be there. This is not a sustainable system that we're running at the moment. Some people are saying, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. The point is, it is broke in the financial sense, but actually there must be more of a motivator than just saying, well, the money's going to run out, so we've got to do something else. What is broken about what we're doing?
I think that's a helpful way to put it. When resources are limited, and I'd rather say they're limited than we're broke, we have choices to make. And when you have choices to make, then you look at how you would want things to be, or indeed what you feel God is calling you to in terms of the kind of church you are. And there's a lot of separatism at the moment between places of expertise, experience, wisdom, things to offer the life of the church that are currently being offered either to a small group of those training for ordained ministries, or other resources that are excellent for lay people, but actually are not being not part of the programme of those training for ordination and ordained ministries. So we've got areas of expertise, wisdom, skill in staff that's not available widely to the whole church, either because of location or because of the way that that learning is offered in either in a particular location or to a particular group. And it would be brilliant to say, can't we either take the walls down, or can't we make those walls much more porous? Can we actually spread this learning throughout the church at every level and not restrict it?
Well, some people would say actually this learning is spread throughout the church, because we've got these 21, what we're calling Methodist-sponsored institutions that deliver some form of training, either ministerial or lay training. And some people will say, well, actually what we're proposing here, what the Ministries Committee is proposing in the document, is a one-size-fits-all, a single hub, a single network. Would you agree that it's a one-size-fits-all solution?
I think it's possibly the exact opposite of that. I think it is a drawing together of resources, not, and I think where the hub is located is not the issue. It's actually being able to offer a place of coordination, I think, a place of meeting, so that at the moment we have a group of tutors who work in training institutions for those training for ordained ministries. We have other staff who work in lay training. We have a raft of really brilliant people at district, circuit, regional levels who deliver training. But those groups don't meet in the main. They don't have a place of exchange and encounter. There are some places of shared work, but they're not consistent right throughout the connection. So I think at the moment there is a situation where somebody training as a local preacher in one location may actually be the only person in that location. They're really quite isolated, and they are dependent on perhaps in that location limited resources. So in a church that's a connectional church, we should be able to do better than that, so that everyone in every place, in every location, has access to a level of learning and expertise and experience that we've got in the life of the church. We want it to pour out, be shared, move around, not be restricted to specific locations.
How can we, though, if we have, I mean, obviously we're talking about a network as well as a hub, and people always focus on the hub as the kind of essential part of this, but we are talking about a network. But how do we make those networks serve the church so that we do draw on the local knowledge? Because I think some people are worried that if we, don't have these 21 institutions across Great Britain, that actually suddenly will cut off all that knowledge coming back into the kind of central network.
I'm excited by the prospect of a network linked to a hub so that there is the creation of a place for those in networks to gather, to be resourced themselves in order to take that learning out, for absolutely superb pieces of work at local level, which I come across as I move around the connection, not just being offered to that circuit. I come across people with huge levels of expertise. They're offering it to their circuit. But because our systems currently don't work, they're not able to offer that necessarily to every person training for ordained ministry. So the movement needs to take place in both directions. There needs to be movement from really good practice at local level, that because a group of practitioners meet at the hub and actually share that good practice with each other, is then available to everybody across the connection. So this isn't about a few experts in one location passing down knowledge. It is about a place of exchange, encounter, sharing of resources. And so for me, it isn't just about the church. For me, it isn't about the church being broke. It is at a time of limited resources, how do we make those most widely available, and how do we spread the learning around?
And a lot of the conversations we've been having throughout the church lately have been about discipleship and about Methodist discipleship as a very distinctive way of following Jesus. And I think some people are saying, okay, well, we've got this discipleship agenda and we've got the Fruitful Field agenda. Do they tally together? Is there a relationship between the two? And does Fruitful Field reflect that priority of discipleship and of Methodist identity being kind of revived almost?
I think there is a coherence and consistency between the two. They're certainly not at variance from each other. I think the Fruitful Field project is an attempt to say that every person, every Methodist, every church member is able to live out a life of discipleship wherever they are, but they might need resourcing in it. And therefore, how are we going to use our resources in a way that produce excellence? Yes, for the person training, for ordination training, but actually, how do we provide resources for those who want their preaching to be resourced, who want their engagement in a local community to be resourced? How do they become a good neighbour where they are, for example? How do they engage with their community? How do they speak of God confidently and fluently? And it seems to me that actually people at local level, in local learning groups, need resourcing so much more, not just dependent on whether they happen to be close to a particular training institution.
And how does going from a variety of institutions to a single hub reflect connexionalism? Does that diminish connexionalism?
I think it's the opposite. It actually embeds it and makes it real and visible in a way that currently isn't, where we have patterns much more of separate resources in specific locations that don't connect very clearly at all with each other. And sometimes, actually, there's not just replication, but sometimes there's competition for a piece of work. And so I think we're wasting some of our resources. And at a time of limited resources, that seems wrong. I think there are ways of offering more coherent programs for every disciple in Methodism. And I'm hungry, I have to say, for people to have equal access to resources.
I'm afraid we really are going to have to finish there. But please, if you're listening or watching, check out some of the other videos, and that's at methodist.org.uk/fruitful field. Helen, thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you.